With all the talk about the tremendous changes being brought about by the rise of artificial intelligence, or AI, including for the legal industry, I just had to see whether using ChatGPT and some of the other popular tools from Google and Microsoft could be helpful for resolving domain name disputes, especially under the UDRP, the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy. Well, here's the spoiler. Not only are they ineffective, but they're also dangerous because in my little experiment, they provided inaccurate information that might cause a trademark owner to lose a cybersquatting case. And who knows what ramifications there might be for any attorney who blindly relies on these AI tools. Now, I had high hopes for how ChatGPT and these other services might perform, thinking that they could either reduce the time I spend drafting UDRP complaints and other documents for my clients, or perhaps unearth legal arguments that might not otherwise occur to me. While I've been representing clients in domain name disputes for more than 25 years, the thought of using a computer powered by AI was incredibly appealing. And I guess my hopes were raised not only by all of the mainstream hoopla surrounding artificial intelligence, but also by some of the attention that has been especially focused on how lawyers can benefit from AI. For example, the Wall Street Journal quoted a law school professor as saying that AI has the capacity to reshape the practice of law. And the ABA Journal has published multiple articles on the topic recently, including one that discussed how AI tools could radically change how the legal industry operates. Plus, my social media feeds and email inbox suddenly seem flooded with companies trying to sell services related to the use of AI for the legal profession. So against this backdrop, how could I ignore the possibility that AI might magically improve my legal practice focusing on domain name disputes? To test out ChatGPT and two other AI services, I decided to ask them very specific research questions on both substantive and procedural issues that sometimes arise when drafting UDRP complaints, to see if they could either write actual legal arguments for me, which I might then cut and paste into my own documents, or at least point me in the right direction with relevant citations to previous UDRP decisions that I could then read and use as precedent for my own arguments. So first, I turned to ChatGPT, the tool that's certainly the best known among all of the AI products that have been in the news in recent months. I entered this query: provide a list of the top 5 most relevant UDRP decisions that explain when it is acceptable to add a domain name to a complaint that was already filed if the due date for the response has already passed. Now, this is an issue that arises from time to time, and it's something I've talked about in a previous video on the GigaLaw YouTube channel. At first glance, I was impressed. After issuing a disclaimer that ChatGPT is an AI language model that doesn't have real-time access to current UDRP decisions, which, by the way, I'm not sure why that's the case since decisions are promptly published by all of the UDRP service providers as ICANN requires, ChatGPT then said that it can provide me with a list of 5 notable UDRP decisions that address the question I asked. But then, as I actually looked up the 5 cases that ChatGPT listed, I saw that not one of the case names actually matched the case numbers provided. In other words, I had received 5 faulty UDRP case citations. And while the short summaries that ChatGPT listed were informative, they were not accurate summaries of anything in the decisions that correspond to the case numbers. In fact, 2 of the 5 cited cases were terminated. So there are no decisions there from which anything can be learned. As for the other 3 cases, none of those that match the case numbers actually allow the trademark owner or complainants to add a domain name to the case, even though the summaries specifically said that they did. Okay, so next I turned to Bard, Google's AI tool, and here I asked it a substantive question. Describe the circumstances under which a UDRP panel may find bad faith where the disputed domain name was created before the complainant's trademark rights arose, and list the top 3 most relevant cases. This is also an important UDRP issue, one that some trademark owners sometimes misunderstand, and one that I've also addressed in a video on the GigaLaw YouTube channel. Bard presented me with 3 bullet points that it said answered my question. But in my opinion, 2 of the 3 were just plain wrong. Bard told me that a UDRP panel may find bad faith where a respondent uses a domain name in a manner that is likely to cause confusion, or where a respondent tries to sell a domain name to a complainant. But neither of those scenarios addresses the timing of the domain name registration versus the establishment of trademark rights. So relying on Bard's answer alone would most likely be fatal to a UDRP complaint. The WIPO overview, perhaps one of the most often cited documents about the UDRP, provides important information that can help answer my question, but for some reason Bard did not even mention it. And much like ChatGPT, Bard provided case citations that were inaccurate, with none of the case names matching the case numbers. And interestingly, the case that was cited first in the results was actually for the famous Telstra versus Nuclear Marshmallows decision, even though Bard listed a different case name, which addresses the issue of how to establish bad faith in the event of passive holding, which has nothing to do with the question I asked. So finally, I tried out Microsoft's Bing AI tool, which is powered by ChatGPT, but has been touted by Microsoft as being more powerful than ChatGPT. Here's what I asked Bing AI. What are the leading UDRP decisions allowing English as the language of the proceeding, where there is no website associated with the disputed domain name, but the domain name itself consists solely of words in the English language? Again, this is a topic that arises not infrequently, and it's the subject of another of my videos on the GigaLaw YouTube channel. And again, the result was disappointing, though this time for another reason altogether. Instead of giving me any UDRP case citations or any useful narrative, Bing AI simply provided what looked like a list of search results, two of which, by the way, are to resources on my own GigaLaw website. And these did not appear to be some super-powered list of resources that was better than I could have obtained in a traditional search engine. In fact, one of the links for the WIPO overview that I mentioned earlier was actually for an outdated version of that document, which was replaced by the current version 6 years ago. I don't know if my experience was typical, but I see no reason to use any of these tools, at least not yet, in my domain name dispute practice. If anything, my experience seems similar to what happened to a New York lawyer who relied on ChatGPT when filing a brief in a personal injury case. The New York Times reported that the lawyer in that case faced sanctions for submitting a legal document with what the judge called bogus judicial decisions with bogus notes and bogus internal citations. I know I don't want to be that lawyer. So I'm not planning to use ChatGPT or Bard or Bing AI in my legal practice anytime soon when filing complaints or other documents in UDRP cases. Although the technology is incredibly appealing, it seems like it's also incredibly unreliable and even outright wrong when used for domain name disputes. But here's one thing ChatGPT told me that I completely agree with. It is always advisable to consult legal professionals for guidance on UDRP matters. Thanks, ChatGPT. If you want to learn more about the UDRP, please check out my masterclass on domain name disputes, as well as other resources on my GigaLaw website. And be sure to subscribe to the GigaLaw YouTube channel to be notified of future videos discussing other internet legal issues. Thanks for watching, and see you next time online.